record. So this is a redoing of the old recording since that one got lost. We'll be starting from scratch. So the first thing we do in every code challenge is open the preview. So let's see how this looks. So you have these main deliverables that we want to get to. And the first thing we do is npm I. We install all of our dependencies.
Yes.
And then after we're done with that, we do npm start. And then the other terminal should just do npm run server. So this is the start to every code challenge. And then all we're going to do here is we're going to start with the first deliverable. And it's saying we want to render out all the items in this component called current inventory list. So let's check that out. So in this component, what we want to do is we want to render out all the items. You could have the fetch in here, or you can have the fetch in the parent. Which one do you prefer, Elena?
Whichever one. So I want to keep it more in one place.
Yeah, so if you want that, we'll do it in the parent.
Okay, cool.
So now let's put the we're gonna use a use effect, but the thing with the use effect is, I mean, I already explained it last time, but we want this fetch, we want this specific fetch to happen on mount. We don't want it to happen again at any other time. So in this use effect, we're gonna get the URL. So from the README, this is a little different because it's only me and you here. So
It's okay, just do it.
it's a lot less like I'm making more mistakes. Okay,
It's okay.
so we're fetching from to this endpoint, and let's console log it first. Let's see if we're getting something. So we are getting something.
Wait,
Notice,
pause. Sorry.
yeah,
Where did you get that?
where?
You got that straight from the README?
Yeah, I got this link from the README. I got it from right here. And how do I know? Because right here, the base URL is this, and then it's /inventory. And when you run the server, it also tells you right here. So that is where you get your all
Okay.
the items, and then you parse the response, and then we console log the data, and we are getting the data. So, and then what we do instead is we use use state. I use the use state snippet, and we're gonna say this is gonna be item array, right?
Yes.
And we want this item array, and we're gonna set the item array instead of console logging it. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna pass this item array into current list. Then we go into current list, and then we parse it, and then we're gonna map through it. We're going to item array.map, and then for each item, we're gonna import the item card. So inventory item card. And then we're also going to pass that down into this component as item. So now we're going to go, so notice how it kind of works, but every single item card is the same. And we're also getting this error right here for the key. So let's figure that error out first. So there's two ways of solving this error. You can give this key a unique key by saying item.id, and then that works. And then let's go into item card. And then now we want is to update this to just be item.name, and this be item.image, and then this be item.price. And then we save this, refresh, and now has all of the items. We click on the items, all it says is the console log, but on the second deliverable, what we wanted to do is, let me open up the preview instead. What we want that to do is when we click one, it's gonna just go over to this orange box. So when you click on an inventory item, it should render in the other component, and the item can only be added once. So we will get to that first. We'll get to adding them first, and then we can figure out how to have it only render once. So the cool thing about this is if you want to do, we already have a lot of code written in the manager file, and we want the value of reorder list to be modified based off of a function here. So we're going to create a function here. And then what this function will do is it will update a state, and that state is going to be passed down into reorder list, and then reorder list will render that state. So before we create that function, let's actually just create the state. And this state is going to be called reorder array. And it's empty. And we're going to pass the same thing like we did before. And we're going to go in here and we're going to parse it. And then we're going to do that dot map that we did before.
Mm.
And then we're going to import that card. And then if we refresh, absolutely nothing has changed. But if we go into the inventory manager and we actually give it an object, like let's say we go to db.json, right? And we take one of those objects, it should render out a Dorito. So although this works, we don't want to actually manually modify this. So we want it to update when we click something. So now that we know the map is working, we want it to work only when you click something. So let's actually create that handle click. Let's do let add to reorder. I don't know. You can name this function whatever you want, or order. And it takes a single item. And what it does is it just updates the reorder array to contain the old array, which is going to be reorder array. And then it contains the new item. Okay, item. Actually, let's rename this to be new item. So now this function, once invoked, it will update the reorder array to have that new item with it. So now let's pass this down into current list, and then we pass it down one more time into the single item. So let's call this handle click. And we're going to pass that handle click. And then over here, instead of console login, you clicked it. We're going to have that handle click, or, oh no, it should have been called handle click. Handle click. Okay, so now let's go back up. So we have this error, and it's probably something to do with the very top. So this should have been called handle click, not reorder array, or add to reorder. So if we save this and we go down, we make sure it's handle click, we refresh. So right now, still nothing, still not much has changed. But when you click on this, it now adds the reorder. But we're getting this error right here. It says it needs to have the unique key. So the same thing we did here, but it's going to be in reorder list and needs a key. We'll go key item.id. And then now you click it, it should add. But notice how when we add Ben and Jerry's twice, it works. So let's try to get rid of this behavior. So in order to do that, we go up to the function that actually adds, and we need conditional logic here. So we want this line to only trigger once that item isn't there. There's multiple ways of doing this. Elena, which one do you like? Remember we went over index of, and we went over the regular loop.
Yeah, I want the simple condensed loop one with the
index one, with
I
index
like
of?
Yeah.
Okay, so what I did before was, so if you, there's this thing called index of, and let's actually look at it in MDN. So index of, what it does is it looks at an array, and if you give it an item in that array, it will give you the index of where it exists. But if it does not exist, it'll give you -1. So we're going to actually utilize that behavior, and we're going to say if reordered array dot index of, so if there is an item in here, if the item is in here, or if the item is not in here, my bad. So if it's equal to -1. So when it is equal to -1, what does it mean, Elena?
That means it's not there.
It means it's not there. So that's why we actually add it. Otherwise, if you get any other index, we don't really care.
Wait, that doesn't look like the loop
It does.
I knew. I
You want
remember there's like a arrow function in there.
dot for each?
Yes.
Not the for each? You want to do that one instead?
I think that's the one I'm more familiar with.
Yeah, there's multiple ways of doing this.
Yeah, because that one looked a little confusing. I can't lie.
Yeah. So what we did instead was we had a variable that handles is dupe. We called it is dupe, and all this is a boolean. So we're gonna say we're gonna have some logic here, but for now I'm just gonna like pseudocode it out. We're gonna say check if it already exists, and then in here is if it's not a dupe. If it's not a dupe, then we do this line. However, we need to toggle this false or true once we loop through it. So now one thing you could do is you could loop through reorder array, and then you can do for each item. And we're going to say if item.id is equal to new item.id, then we know that it's a dupe. So we say is dupe is equal to true. Which way do you like better, this one or the index of?
Actually, like this one better.
Yeah, so now if you
Makes
click on
more
it,
sense.
doesn't matter how many times you click on it, it will only show up once. Yeah, so that's one way. And again, there's like multiple ways of doing this, but this is deliverable 2 out. So we have deliverable 2. Let's look at deliverable 3. So when you click it, only be added once, the item does not disappear, whatever. Okay. Remove an inventory item. So when you click it here, it should remove. So right now, if you click it, it does nothing. We want it to actually disappear when you click it while it's in reorder. So let's actually go to the manager file, and then we go up here.
Yeah,
and
this is
instead of add to reorder, we're gonna have a function that says remove reorder. You can, again, like the naming of these functions, you can name them whatever you want. This is probably not named the best, but and what we're gonna do is we're gonna set it to a new array, and we're gonna filter out everything that's in there except for the one that we're, so we're gonna filter out the one that we're removing. So we're
Wait, is this how
filtering
to
out
delete?
what happened.
Is this how to delete it?
Yeah, you're right. Let's call it delete instead.
Oh,
Delete delete item. And then yeah, it call it delete item. So in this delete item, we're gonna loop through the reorder array, and we're gonna filter out the one that we don't want. So we're gonna say filter, and we're gonna filter each item and make sure that each item does not have the same ID as the old item, because if it does, we don't want it included. So what we can do is say item.id is just not equal to old item.id. And then what we're going to do at the end is we're just going to update the array to contain the new, or update the array to be the new array. And then now all we need to do is connect it up to the click event. So we pass it down, we say handle click is now going to be, instead of add, it's going to be remove. And then here it's going to be handle click. You add or removes. Okay, so that works. So now the last thing we need to do is, so that deliverable works. Let's see if we answered all the questions. It says remove an item. Yeah, and now it says remove an item forever by clicking the delete button at the bottom. This should delete the item both from the back end and everywhere from the front end. So again, that's also going to be in the same file right around here. So now what we want is delete item. Now we want, let's call this delete item forever. And it takes in the item that we're deleting. So we're going to say to, or let's say this is old item again, since we're deleting it. And what we want to do is we want to do a delete request. And if you want to look at how to do a delete request, fetch, and let's see. Remember, we looked at this before, or actually we looked at this. So the way it works is it takes in, so let's actually just copy this so I can show you. So it takes in the link and then it takes in a method. So this link, we're going to use the same link as before. And accept that the actual item that we're deleting is going to be the old item.id. And then we're going to do a dot then. And then once this finishes, what we want to do is, let's just say for now, this is console log. Let's just say gone, right? So right now this button is not hooked up, so it's actually gonna actually just remove the item from here, but it's not actually gonna delete it forever. Actually, if you click it from here, it doesn't actually do anything. So what we want to do instead is pass it down, and we're gonna call this although it doesn't say where you should delete it, like let's look at the readme. Remove an inventory item forever. So remove an inventory item. Because this is the inventory item, we want this button here to delete forever. Not, I mean, you could technically have it on this button and this button, but for now, let's just get it to work on like current inventory. We could also get it to work on the reorder, but
And that'll delete it from the JSON too.
yeah. Well, we're gonna need to, yeah. So let's look at it. Let's look at it. It deletes it from the JSON, and that's it. It doesn't actually delete it from front end. So let's look at how this works. So we're gonna say delete forever. And all I'm doing is I'm passing it down all the way until we get to here. And then we say delete forever, and we're going to delete that item. So if we refresh and we click this and we click delete, notice how it says gone, but it's still here. But if you refresh, it's actually gone. So let's bring that one back. Okay.
Wait, how did you bring that back?
So let's go back to db.json. So if you ever do a change on a file, right? And you open it up, or actually, did we even delete it? Yeah, right there. So notice how it got deleted. There's this little red arrow.
Oh yeah, okay.
Click on it. It's like VS Code showing you like the source control, and you just undo.
Nice.
Yeah, like a fancy undo. But because sometimes you're not always going to be on a file. So like for example, all of our changes here, that's not saved. So Doritos is gone. So if we go to db.json, notice how we cannot, actually we can undo, but sometimes you open a file and you can't undo. You could just bring it back to its original state, which has the Dorito. So now let's actually get it to actually delete from the front end as well, because it's deleting from the back end, but it's not deleting from the front end. So instead of console logging gone, what we're going to do is we're going to first clear out the current inventory, and then we're going to clear out the reorder. We already have the clear out the reorder, so let's just reuse that function. And then if you want to clear out the current inventory, it's really going to be the same exact thing, except that the state that we're modifying now is no longer a reorder array, but item array. Now I'm using the same logic, I'm just changing the names. And yeah, so now if you refresh, you click it, you delete it, it's gone from both. Any questions, Elena? I know this probably wasn't better than the first time. Was probably better because
How much better, I think.
you think it's better now than it was before?
Yeah,
Okay. Okay, I mean, whatever. So you probably missed stand down, but is there any questions before I stop the recording?
Yeah, can you tell Graham, please?
Tell her that you're with me and
Yes, because I can't miss any more tardies.
okay, I'll tell her.
I didn't even realize what time it is.